Today on Church Public, a Netflix cartoon has an animated bison encouraging children to come out as non-binary, whatever that means. Next, a traditionally women's college now accepts men, well, some men, not all men, only the trans variety. Anyway, we also have a new installment of culture bowing down to the trans cult, this time quite literally. Finally, President Biden throws his hat into the ring, wanting to prosecute those who are against medical and surgical transitions for children. All this and more in current events from a Christian perspective. I'm Matt Odegaard, and this is Church Public. Welcome back to Church Public. Again, my name is Matt Odegaard. I am your host as always, and I really appreciate you stopping by today. Your time is very valuable, and I want to honor it the best that I can. We look at current events from a Christian perspective because I believe that helps us live out our faith. We need to understand what is going on in the culture so that we can participate in the culture, as Jesus says, to be like Christ, not like the world, right? We want to be in the world, but not of the world, in the world, but not like the world. And more that becomes more difficult because you're going to have to make choices. Do you want to agree with the culture on certain things and just go along to get along? Or do you want to stand up for true things and not lie? Which feels to us sometimes like being not nice. It feels unloving to tell the truth sometimes, but it's not. Loving is truth. Love is not love. Lying is not love. And we need to, as Christians, begin to stand up for that in a graceful way, in a loving way, but still tell the truth. And more that becomes difficult. So I want to help you do that by understanding what is going on in current events, in culture, and presenting a Christian perspective on that. As always, you can check my work by going to the Bible yourself. I highly encourage that. So let's get to some news. Oh, I forgot. Like, if you need to subscribe and like and do all the things, whatever, you either like this or you hate it, and you're going to throw your phone out the window anyway. So I hope you like it. I hope you enjoy it. And if you do, hit all the buttons, do all the things, share all the things. You can always go to churchpublic.com/podcast or churchpublic.com, hit the main page, go to the video podcast from there if you want to see some of the video clips that we'll be looking at today. I think you can also get it on YouTube or any of the other places for the audio podcast. But if you want to check that out, I highly encourage it. Audio listener, I love you. Thank you so much for being here today. So the first thing we are looking at is non-binary bison. That's I have no other segue beyond that. So Netflix has this show called Ridley Jones, apparently, who learns about certain things in life. This, to me, according to the animation, and this is my guess, is aimed at fairly young children. And it seems like it's fairly young children because it seems like this, the way the animation is done and everything else, it seems like this is aimed at little children. So this is a clip. They were going through some adventures, whatever. They ended up running into some bison. Again, whatever. This is a kid's premise. It's a kid's show. But then the bison has to describe their sexuality, I guess. How else do you say that? By claiming that now they're not a he, she, they're a they, them, and they're non-binary. Anyway, let's take a look at this.
You always say to lead with your heart, right? Well, my heart says that the way I feel most myself is to go by the name Fred. That's because I'm non-binary, and Fred's the name that fits me best. And I also use they and them, because calling me a she or a he doesn't feel right to me. Oh, I didn't know that. No wonder you've been struggling.
So there you go. More indoctrination for our poor kids. And I mean, this is aimed directly at children, right? And it's saying that, and even it's just so crazy. And it's so anti-reality and anti-biology. You have an animal whose sole purpose is to be an animal and potentially reproduce or whatever, which requires certain gender difference, and yet this particular gendered bison is now non-gendered, non-binary, whatever that means. So it's a they, even though it's a singular. This is the crazy wacko world that we're in. And the bigger point is, this is what our philosophical betters, our cultural warriors are telling us is important for our children to know. That's the thing. That's the cultural piece. That's the Christian piece that we have to understand, that these people who are in charge of these series, who are on a large streaming platform, which you probably have in your home, and you just say, well, I'll just throw my kid in front of the TV and nothing, no harm will come from this, and they'll just watch a silly little animated show about bison. I mean, like, where's the harm in kids watching an animated show about bison? Watch what your kids are watching. Make sure they're not watching certain things. Now, as an update to this story, I literally, as I was putting this together, because I had this slated a couple days ago when I saw it come through, I actually was researching it a little bit more, and Netflix has actually canceled this show. Netflix has decided that this show is no longer good, and I just want to say I love that. I love that to all of you who pushed back on this and said already, hey, we don't want our kids watching this garbage, so let's get rid of it. And they did. So fantastic job. If you were just hearing about this story, again, I bring it to you because I want you to understand what's going on, and you can also push back when we see things like this. Again, it's important to not lie. Don't tell lies, just say true things. That's all you have to do. Read the Bible, do what it says, and live accordingly instead of going on with the agenda of the progressive leftist ideologists that are around in this world. That's what I would suggest and recommend. And speaking of leftist ideology, man, we have this next. I'm sorry, I'm laughing already. It's terrible. We have this next story, and so what we have is a traditionally women's college that now says men can go to this college. Now, you've seen the reverse of this for decades and decades and decades. Traditional colleges for men that now allow women, but this one is different. This one is different. It's Wellesley College. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but anyway, Wellesley College, traditionally women's college. I think Hillary Clinton went there. A bunch of other prominent, I guess you would say, women attended this women's only college. But Wellesley now, this traditional women's college, has forgotten the most important question. What is a woman? They clearly don't know, and they can't know. And this is what's happened. They have stuck themselves into the corner of intersectional hierarchy. This is the problem. They've stuck themselves into this, and now they can't get out of it, because you have intersectional hierarchy of trans ideology, the T in LGBTQ, AAIP, hashtag plus plus $, smiley face, and this T is becoming, if it isn't already, the most powerful letter in that alphabet soup, because you have to do whatever the T says. You have to. You cannot argue. You cannot go a different way. You must go along with the T ideology in the LGBT plus plus. You have to. And here's what I mean by that. Here's it coming to reality. You think, well, these letters don't mean anything. Well, this is just some idea that's on the fringes. It's on the coasts. No, this is coming and it's here, and it has effects in real life. That's why I bring you these stories. I had a conversation with a person the other day, and they were like, hey, I just don't want to think about this. I don't want to turn on the news. I don't want to think about any of the things that are going on. I just want it to all get back to normal and we'll be okay. And I just sat there and stewed, and I'm like, the problem is that's not real either. You can't ignore what's going on, because this is coming into reality, and we're seeing it in stories like this at this traditionally women's college. So student body officials at the college, here's a list. So Hillary Clinton, Madeleine Albright, some others, they voted unanimously last month to advance the gender inclusivity ballot. And this allows students to, quote, express their views, unquote, on the 150-year-old institution's admissions policy. Now, apparently this college already accepts transgender identifying students who were born male. But now this controversial referendum expands the application process for women who identify as men. So again, if you're keeping track, if you are a man and you want to identify as a woman, you can go to the all-women's college. If you're a woman and you identify as a woman, you can go to the women's college. Now they want to say a woman who identifies as a man can go to the all-women's college. So Alexandra Brooks, the student body president, said, quote, we are just asking the administration to put on paper what is already true of the student body. Trans men go to Wellesley, non-binary people go to Wellesley, and they kind of always have, end quote. Now, this 150-year-old college I'm going to need a little more than they always kind of have. I kind of doubt that. 150 years ago, so we're in the, I do my math for a second, 1870s, somewhere in there. I kind of doubt there were quote unquote trans men and quote unquote trans women that went to Wellesley. I would be surprised. I would be surprised at that. I don't have any documentation on that either, but I'm just kind of going by history that I've seen and experienced and know. I'm gonna guess there were no trans men and trans women at Wellesley, the traditionally women's college, 150 years ago. Anyway, the point of this story is you can never go far enough. This is the problem with the progressive left. It is always going to progress because the whole goal of it is to progress, so there is no end point. You cannot ever get to a goal or a destination because as soon as you get where you said you want to go, there is more. And that's what we're seeing in the LGBT. The T is saying there is more and we have to go more. So at Wellesley, if you're a woman, you can go. If you're a man who identifies as a woman, you can go. If you're a woman who identifies as a man, you can also go. But sadly, if you're a man who just knows he's really a man, you cannot go. And if you're sitting there saying, this makes no logical sense, no rational sense, no biological sense, well, right. This is the end of the progressive left, or as the philosopher band Journey put it, any way you want it. There's no logic, no rationality, no biology needed for these kinds of decisions because it's all based on the heart. It's all based on your feels. How you feel is the only thing that matters. Of course, if you're a man who feels like a man, in that case, well, you just have to stay home, I guess. You're not invited. You're not wanted. Culture called. Please just leave. That's the reality of this place that we're living in and why this story is interesting, because we have this historically women's college who now allows men who are pretending to be women. So now this historically women's college also has men, even though they can't say that they have men. Unless you're a woman who says you're a man. Anyway, we just go around and around on this merry-go-round, and there is no off because there can't be an off because there is no destination to this. It just goes around in circles. But I'm here for it. I'm here for it because this institution, which is clearly liberal, leftist even as it were, is just going to devour itself because it can't help it, because there is no end to the progression. And speaking of men who are pretending to be women, this clip has been going around the internet and oh man, it is just super cringy. And I know I probably say that a bunch and I probably play things that are cringy all the time, but this one just really, really takes it for me. This is I was going to say former, that's really not fair. It's an actress, very famous actress. You'll probably recognize her. I'll say her name in a minute. And then the number one trans star in America, maybe the world at this point, Dylan Mulvaney, which we've talked about a lot. So the actress is Drew Barrymore. The trans superstar is Dylan Mulvaney, who is a man, still a man, always going to be a man, but is pretending to be a woman and has now apparently been for 1 year pretending to be a woman. And in fact, not even just a woman, a girl. He's pretending to be a Disney princess. I don't really know what's going on. But anyway, here's a clip that's been going around the internet where you see that Drew Barrymore just kneels down in front of Dylan Mulvaney. I don't know. Let's watch this and then we'll talk about it. Here we go.
It's interesting because I look at someone like you, and I can't imagine anybody disliking you.
Oh, please. Do you want to know, ironically, who dislikes me the most sometimes?
Who?
Myself.
Oh, me too. Oh.
All right, so if you were just listening, you probably didn't see the crazy that happened there, but this is Dylan Mulvaney in a dress in front of Drew Barrymore on a talk show that she has, I guess. I didn't realize she had a talk show, but whatever. So she's on this talk show with Dylan Mulvaney, and she expresses that she, is her biggest critic. And we can pause on that and say, hey, we all feel that way. I'm my biggest critic. You're probably your biggest critic. Sure, that's fine. I have no problem with that. You need a little introspection. You need to realize that you're not as good as you think you are. Perhaps both of these people could use a little more of that. But again, that may be a topic for another time. The thing that's super weird about this, I'm even going to bring it in again. If you're just listening, like, again, Now they're both on their knees hugging each other in the middle of this TV interview, and it's just kind of super weird. Like, it's weird, but it starts being weird when Drew Barrymore goes on her knees in front of this guy, and now we have a girl kneeling before a guy. And I've been told that the patriarchy is terrible, and white patriarchy is terrible. The white male patriarchy is the worst thing in existence. I'm pulling this I'm gonna put this up one more time for you. This is Drew Barrymore kneeling in front of a white dude. Great job, feminism. So that's where this starts, but that's not even where it ends. That's where this begins, and you have Drew Barrymore kneeling in front of Dylan, and here's the thing, right? So I think what people are not catching in this whole experience, where Dylan is saying, "Hey, I'm a girl now," is that he has been a musical theater actor for a long time. And so I'm gonna play you another clip that's been going around of him, where he is apparently putting a show on Broadway. Apparently that's what this is, on his 365th day of being a girl, according to him. He decided to celebrate in large style and was invited into this. I guess it's a Broadway show. I don't exactly understand, but it's a really long thing. I'm just going to play you a short clip where he is singing a song, and we'll listen to the song, and then we'll talk about this song. Let's see. Here we go.
Truthfully, I don't know what their goal is, but I do know how they make me feel now that I've built up a thicker skin. It doesn't hurt me. Do you want to feel how it feels? Do you want to know that it doesn't hurt me? Do you want to hear about the deal I'm making? My response going forward, it's not over-explaining myself. It's not pleading. It's not expecting kindness from someone who has no kindness to give. My response is in the next joyous video that I make. That's my response. And if I only could, I'd make a deal with God, and I'd get him to swap our places. Can we pause there? I'm gonna say something that might make people feel a little bit uncomfortable. I'm trying really hard to maintain a relationship with God, and I don't think that he made a mistake with me. And that maybe one day I will actually be grateful for being trans, that this isn't some curse, but it's just a different path to the same destination. Be running up that road, be running up that hill, be running up that building.
All right, let's go ahead and stop it there. Again, it goes on for a long way in this song. And I mean, I'll even say, like, hey, he's got a pretty good voice for a tenor. But what I really want to point into here is, like, that was, I don't know the sincerity of what's going on. I know this person, Dylan, is a musical theater guy. I know he spent a ton of time doing that. This seems like a play to me. I know there were tears there, but I've seen a lot of plays, and I've seen a lot of plays with tears too. I don't know what's real. I don't know what's real here, but I want to focus in on a couple things that he said. He said, I hope that, I'm working on my relationship with God, and I wanna come to the place where I don't feel like God made a mistake. And I wanna point to that and say, you're right. God did not make a mistake with you. God made you male, and he made you into a man. And I hope and I pray that you figure out what that really means. God did form you in the womb before you were born, Psalm 139. And I just want to say, I'm sorry that you feel that chemically, medically changing yourself from a man into a woman is the path forward. And I hope that you find a way to recognize that that's not it. And it seems like you can't think that God made you perfect as a man and you want to be something else. And I'm sorry that you're not going to be a woman. That's just not possible, rather than embracing who God has made you to be. And so I hope that you can find in your relationship with God this place where you understand who you really are, that you find God, that you realize that you were made in his image as a man, and whatever play you're performing here, you're not going to find love and joy and peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, self-control. You're not going to find that. But I hope that you do in God and in Christ. I hope that you can find that. We all have second chances. We all make mistakes and do the wrong things. That's the reality of sin. I'm not calling you out more than anybody else, but we have to scroll back and see that there's more going on here, because the whole of society is bowing down here and saying this is the way. And as a Christian, as a believer, as a person who understands that there really is a kingdom of God, we don't get to set the rules. We don't get to decide how it all works, even if you want to, even if I want to. That's not my purview. It's not your purview. God is God, and I'm not God. And so, unfortunately, this feels and seems like part of an act. And I really do hope the best for you, Dylan. I hope that you can figure out who you are in God, and I hope you do continue on in that search. But speaking of the acting part, it just seems like this is all part of an act, and it just seems like this is just who you have been for a while, but now you're doing it in the main stage. And the reason that we have to talk about this is you're the one who put yourself out in front of America. You're the one who decided to go to the White House with the president and take commercial deals with feminine products. You're the one who did this and said, this is the way I'm going forward. And then when we notice and say, hey, this isn't the way women are, it isn't the way men are, you're something in the middle, we have to say no, that this isn't right, it isn't real, and it seems like it might all be an act. I don't know. So here is another clip of Dylan that's been going around. That is a clip of him on The Price is Right before he decided to do this whole girl situation and becoming a girl. And let's just watch this for a second and see if this illustrates something for us. So if you're just watching, this is Dylan now as a man, because this was a couple years ago, doing the Price is Right thing. He is dancing, he is prancing, jumping, cheerleader pose. Now we're doing the tequila dance. He's I don't even know, squiggling around. He's won these things, but he's still dancing. You think, well, hey, this clip is over. Nope, it's still going. Now we've got a pool cue, and we're doing a cha-cha or whatever. I don't know the names of these dances. And now we're rowing a boat with a pool cue. And you think, we're going to commercial anytime. Nope. Now we're still dancing with the pool cue. Finally, this thing is over. But why do I show that clip? Yeah, it's a little bit silly, but it's just interesting to me that the gay man persona of Dylan Mulvaney is pretty much the same as the girl persona of Dylan Mulvaney. I'm not seeing a big difference here other than the fact that he's saying, hey, now I'm a girl. And because he said that, and the place where the culture is, he captured this cultural moment where that is the only thing that matters, and now he is literally at the top of the world. I know the left is telling you, hey, they're very oppressed. LGBTQ is very oppressed. Everybody is really oppressed. It doesn't seem like when you get to go on a Hollywood stars talk show to the White House, merch deals with all of these companies. I think you were a Forbes Woman of the Year or something. I mean, it doesn't seem like that's very oppressed. I'm not going to get any of those things. I'm just being the guy that I am. If you were being the guy that you were, you probably wouldn't get those things either. But now that you're pretending to be a girl doing those things, now you're the king, queen of the ball. I don't even know what words to say at this point, but you know what I mean, right? Like this is where we're going. And one final piece on this, and I've gone too long on this already, but I just, as I was kind of putting some pieces together, I think this is an important piece. So this is from Dylan himself. This is another part of the interview with Drew Barrymore, where he says, hey, when I started this, day one of this, my life as a girl, this is what I was thinking. And I think this is an important piece to understand of the whole thing. So let's take a look at this.
I had no idea how vulnerable I was even willing to get. And honestly, that day one video that I made, it was kind of supposed to be a comedy video because I think coming outs can be so intense. And, you know, I kind of wanted to add some humor. I think that we can all learn through comedy. I think you can relate.
Now, I'm just taking what he says here. It sounds like that first day was supposed to be a little bit of a joke from a gay guy dressing like a girl. But he hit something in culture, in time, that was, oh, this is going to be a huge moneymaker. And now we're doing this great act that has got him to the president of the United States, among many other things. And I don't know. It's unfortunate. And I think it's bigger than that. It is demeaning to women. And that's the thing, right? It's demeaning to women because he's famous for pretending to do the normal things that a woman does, but will never get any recognition for. He was invited to the White House to talk with Biden, the Broadway show that we just watched, his Hollywood show that he was just on. And his qualifications for all of this are just pretending to be a girl, which he said himself was supposed to be just kind of a comedy thing at the beginning. And the whole idea of this is what the left wants, that this particular character has shown that by doing this, it can be very lucrative. It's not oppression like we've heard. That's rather false. It's really that you embrace this far end of identity politics and you can go all the way to the White House, apparently, for doing normal things that normal people do, just pretending to do the opposite gender of the things. I think that's an interesting place that we're in culture, and we have to remember what is real, what is true, what is right, and stick to those things. Let's do one more quick story today, and that is Biden weighing into this whole trans ideology, but doing it in a more overt way than he has done before. He says that if you argue with trans medical procedures, trans surgical procedures, trans chemical procedures, then you are being close to sinful. Close to sinful. Let's listen to him talk about this. This is Biden talking about it.
What's going on in Florida is, as my mother would say, close to sinful. I mean, it's just terrible what they're doing. It's not like, a kid wakes up one morning and says, I decided I want to become a man, or I want to become a woman, or I want to change. I mean, what are they thinking about here?
So close to sinful. Now, there's a couple things we've got to point out here. Remember, sin is not something we think is bad or immoral or wrong. It's not. The definition of sin does not come from us. It doesn't come from you. It doesn't come from me. It comes from God. Sin is an offense to God. It is against God because sin is breaking God's law. Because God is holy, God is above us, and therefore what we do that breaks his holiness, that goes against his holiness, is sin. So the definition of sin is not from you. It's not from me. It's not from Biden. It's not from anybody on this earth. The definition of sin is from God. We can see sin. We can see the immorality and call it out, but our definition has to be in line with God's definition. We don't get to make up our own definition. That is, in fact, not sin. And Biden is giving this comment in response to what is going on in Florida with drag show bans and not teaching porn to children and all that kind of thing. And Biden says that not allowing children to medically transition is close to sinful. So again, this is exactly opposite, exactly backwards. Now, there definitely is sin here. I would agree with that. And it's not close to sin because there's no such category as close to sin. You either sin or you don't sin. This is, I don't even know what to do with this category. You either sin or don't. That is, in fact, black and white. You either have made it and been right, or you are not. There is no middle term. So if you're acting immoral in terms of sexuality, and that would be anything outside of marriage, that is a sin, period. And Biden said, it's not like a kid wakes up one morning and says, I decided I wanted to become a man or become a woman, or I want to change. But that's exactly what the T in the LGBT is saying. They woke up and realized they were born in the wrong body. This is a far cry from the call of, quote unquote, born this way that we've heard. Now it's the opposite. They're born in the wrong body and must surgically and chemically change to achieve any kind of happiness. We're even told to weigh the false dichotomy of, would you rather have a trans kid or a dead kid? You can only choose one. And of course, this is also a lie. God didn't make a mistake with you, just like we talked about with Dylan. God didn't make a mistake with you. You are made in the image of God. Trans or suicide are both selfish options. And I can have compassion for a person who's struggling with an issue while at the same time argue against this cultural push towards radical policy, which now goes all the way up to the President of the United States of America, who says not allowing children to transition should be illegal. Listen to this second clip from him.
I mean, it just, to me, is, I don't know, it's cruel. And the way we do it is we make sure we pass legislation like we passed on same-sex marriage. You mess with that, you're breaking the law, and you're going to be held accountable.
So again, if you didn't understand exactly what's going on in this clip, he's saying, if you mess with that, if you say trans people cannot transition medically, chemically, castrating children, sterilizing children, hormonally affecting children, then you are sinful and you're a criminal and you should have this crime. So he is, that's the strongest I've heard him say something like that. If you are against transing the kids or anybody, you are the criminal. You are the sinner. Sin is the opposite of holiness. God is holy. We talked about that. And so when we do not live up to God's holiness, that is sin. Therefore, if Biden is saying not allowing a person to chemically and surgically mutilate their body, that's the sin, then allowing the transition, allowing a child to transition medically and surgically, apparently that is now holy. It's holy to perform these surgeries and medical procedures on people of all ages. And of course, this is all just ridiculous. It's just another example of everything the left says is exactly backwards from both reality, spiritually, and biologically. And this is why these stories are important, and your Christian perspective is important, and we must not get bullied by the loudest voices in the West saying lies. Lying is not loving. Sin is clearly defined by the one who is holy, even though this culture and the politicians and the celebrities and the cartoons and the networks and everybody else, including the President of the United States, says something is sinful. That doesn't mean it's true. Check their work, check my work, check everyone's work. Read the Bible, study it, memorize it, write it on your mind and your heart, and after you know the Bible backwards and forwards and inside and out, then do what it says. Follow Jesus, even when it's hard, even when people hate you for it, even when they persecute you for standing up for truth. Remember, they did the same things to Jesus and Paul and Peter and many other followers throughout the years. You were made for this moment. The time is now. Be a follower of Jesus, no matter what. For Church Public, I'm Matt Odegaard, and I hope that you keep the faith.